there's lots of gunplay in this. Now, are those difficult scenes to do? Because I'm guessing there was a degree of weapons training involved in this before you did it.
Um, uh, Not really. I mean, it was. I mean, I've done films with a lot more weapons where we've had to train for weeks on end. But this one, um, we obviously were very careful, particularly with everything going on. I think almost all of them. I think Jim, right? All of them were like non. They can't do anything. There was no. They weren't dangerous in any way. Um, so we didn't really have to do any kind of major training or anything like that. And none of us are particularly characters aren't. My character is probably the only one in Nick's that had any experience with guns. Pretty much,
Was
I
that,
think. Oh, no, a few others, but I don't think Jim's character knew a lot about guns.
No, no. Yeah, I mean, really, a lot of that the gunplay, the big sequence, is only about 10 seconds of the movie. So it's like it's
Oh
really just
yeah,
like a
that's
shootout,
of
and it's
course.
yeah.
like it's
And
so
everybody
it's so
died.
intense. Yeah, it's so intense in for 10 seconds. But really all of that is so forensically planned out by Francis. Like everything is shot listed, everything is like planned down to a T. So when like somebody is shot and then the air conditioner gets shot, it has to be super timed out so that like the squibs are going off on someone and then immediately afterwards sparks are coming out from the background, coffee pots are blowing up. Like everything is so dialed down that really that's the thing that takes the longest to shoot. Like for the finale, the explosion, any of the big action stuff is really like far less fun to shoot than a scene of dialogue because you're only getting like 5 shots that day because they're so intense and require so much planning. Whereas like, you're doing 40 shots the rest of the time that you're shooting.
so, Richard, you take what looks like a particularly uncomfortable looking bullet hit. Is that as uncomfortable to endure as it is to watch?
Uh, Fortunately not. Although I did have to pretend to be dead with the, I don't want to give too much away, but I did have to hold on to that with like covered in blood and all kinds of whatnots, and for quite a while people were going, including Jim. I think mostly Jim. Actually, Jim was running around doing all kinds of mischief and mayhem while I just lay there in a gore and
It's so
assorted other
bad. All the actors are
holding my
covered in blood
breath.
and they have to sit there. Yeah, they have to sit there for like hours with this like sticky
Yeah,
fake blood on themselves. It's just
I
like
think that was the
they're
worst
just become
part.
props in the scene.
Yeah,
So, apart from the guns, though, it seems to me that criminals and actors have to learn certain skills. And for you, Jim, you learn you siphon petrol in a scene with this, which seems to be a bit of an art to that. Is that how you found it?
Yeah, so the physics of it is such that you have to pull it out higher so that it goes lower. And we did have to do it in one shot. And Charlie Texter, our production designer, came up with the idea where you see me put it into the tank, and then I go down, we lose the tank out of frame, and it comes down to me. And then when I'm putting it back up and pushing the tube in more, Charlie was laying down in the back of the truck bed pulling it out to then put it into a water canister so it looks like it's really coming from the tank. So it was a bit of movie magic. But the amount of heavy thinking that went into getting that to look realistic in one shot, I was like, I'll just do it. Just like figure out how to do it. We'll do it. And they're like, no, 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 no. It's poison. It'll like, you'll hyperventilate, you'll like collapse on the ground. You can't get any of it in your mouth. I'm like, all right. So a lot of it had to be faked in order to get it to look real. But it looks real. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
great.
I thought you did it. Yeah, that's interesting.
So it's quite it reminded me a little bit of Tarantino's Hateful Eight in terms of lots of characters in one situation. But the thing that did strike me, and actors have mentioned this to me before, is that the dialogue is quite stripped down in parts, but you both have a significant amount of time when you're just watching and reacting. And I understand that that can be more difficult than dialogue at times. Would that be right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you have to carry the scene with eye movements and like small micro performance and facial expressions, it's much harder. Where it's like you can get the idea across, but once you're doing a take, you can sometimes do a facial expression, you feel like you're doing it too much or you're doing it too muted. It's like it really is a balancing act, and you never feel like you're getting it right. And so you have to kind of have this long form conversation with Francis behind the camera of like keeping the cameras rolling. It's like, all right, let's do it again. Let's do it and think about this. Or like now dart your eyes over here. A lot of it was shot in block shooting, which means that we would like my character, we'd be shooting on one side from my moment with Charlotte earlier in the film, and then we'd immediately shoot another scene 40 pages later, just because this booth was already lit. When you're shooting on a small budget, you have to think about this kind of stuff. And so it really is far more complicated doing stuff without dialogue. A scene, it's theater I'm so much more used to, of being able to just capture a scene and, over the shoulders, flipping the world, that kind of stuff. But when it's just quiet, it's much harder. You feel like you can't, it's so much harder.
Is that your experience as well there, Richard?
It was, but it wasn't anywhere near as intense as Jim's. I mean, Jim had a lot of that. Am I fading? Is my stream okay? You guys getting it all right, or am I?
We can
You're,
hear you.
You
we can
losing
hear
me?
you. There we
Okay.
go.
You can't see me though. Okay, but at least the people can hear me babbling on. So I mean, I would watch Jim. Apologies for that, by the way. But I would watch Jim. Because he'd be reacting to what we were doing, so we were doing it, and he had it much harder. And Francis was off screen going, "Okay, now look at them." I knew it was difficult. Like he had a lot of that because obviously a lot of the movie is kind of through Jim's perspective in essence, and he really had days when I thought, "Wow, that is tough." Look over there. Look out the window now.
Yeah.
Oh, not too. This. It was very, very specific. And I didn't have as much as that. We had a bit, Nick and I, Thomas, we were sitting in our little corner booth, but it was Jim that really had marathon sessions of Francis behind the scene going, okay, do this, do that. So hats off to him.
So, Richard, you have some really terrifying looks in this film. I don't want to be in a diner when your character is in that diner. Have you ever had occasion to use that look in real life?
All the time. Like if my kids aren't doing when they were little doing their homework, never worked ever. They still don't do it. No, I probably have. Yes, a few times when I've pulled out one of these characters when I need to make sure I get in an airplane. It's overbooked or no. I was just in a diner. I had breakfast I'm in America at the moment because I live in the UK, so
Yeah.
that's why I'm happy that our film is finally out there. But I'm in the US right now and we went to a diner very similar to the one the movie was shot in, but nobody was frightened of me. I don't think they didn't seem to be. But I think my face. I mean, I was born with this rather strange-looking face, so I think that does half of it. That scares people, even without me having to make it look scary.
Well, it's a really great location. And it looks pretty remote. Can you tell me about the location? And is it location or is it sort of part studio?
Yeah, so it's called the Four Aces Movie Ranch. And it's been in a million movies. And since acting in the film, you see it everywhere. It's like you buy a car and then you see it driving down the street all the time. Like they use it so much. Um, Quentin Tarantino used it a bit in Kill Bill for a scene. It's in so many movies, but Francis really wanted to shoot it for what it is. It's in Palmdale. It's in the middle of the desert, and it's very inhospitable to life. There's like almost no running water. Anything that you need to make something, you have to bring in, like you're camping. So it's a very strange place. When you're sitting there, it seems like it's a real functional place, but it really is just a shack in the desert. And you open the doors and the dust comes in, you have to sweep the dust out. It really does feel like the desert is going to swallow it eventually. But it's about 45 minutes outside of Los Angeles. and it is on this dark, scary stretch of road. It's neat. It's a spooky spot.
So you've both got extensive and quite eclectic back catalogues. So just finally, I was going to ask you both, with such an extensive back catalogue of films, are there roles that you've auditioned for or been offered and you've turned down, but in retrospect you thought, actually, I should have taken that role. What was I thinking?
I mean, not really. Yeah, I remember seeing an interview with Robert De Niro talking about that, where he doesn't get the part where he says no to something and it ends up being a very good film. Um, but he was like, yeah, that's just, you keep going. Like, you can't focus on the plates that fall and drop and break. You have so many in the air that you still got to focus on spinning the plates that are still up. I never feel that way. Richard, do you feel that way?
No, I've never regretted any decision. And even auditions, I've come close to a role and not gotten it, and then, maybe it's been a successful film, but I haven't felt any. I always think the right thing, and I mean this genuinely. I don't mean this sounding naff. That I really think the right things come. I've had opportunities where I didn't get something, especially early in my career, and I was like, I don't believe I didn't get it. And then I heard about how horrible the experience was on the film, and the director was terrible, or the something else. The lead actor was not a nice person, and I think I'm glad I didn't get that. And for me, I can say that I've never had an experience on a film up to this day, knock on wood, that I haven't enjoyed, and I haven't really enjoyed working with the people on it, and some more than others. This was one of my all-time favorites. Yuma was one of my all-time favorites experiences by far. But that I think is because the right things come. I think it just sort of be open to what comes, and I'm always just very, very, very grateful. So no, I don't have any regrets, or you know.
Well, I think it shows well with this script because the last stop in Yuma
Uh,
County is such a terrific little film. It really is a terrific little film. I enjoyed it immensely. So I'll end it all by saying, Jim, thank you very much, and Richard, with your Welsh heritage, I'm going to say diolch yn
thank you.
fawr.
Oh, thank you. That's brilliant. I love it. Cardiff, man. It's brilliant. It's nice. I'll be
Thank
back. I
you,
haven't been back for a
Simon,
little bit. I got to get back. Thanks, Simon.
thank you
thank
for
you,
having
guys.
us. Thank you.